Here we go. Here we go.
So we're here to share what we know and love about apprenticeships, to bring to life what they are, how they work, where to find them, and importantly, to explore whether they could be the right option for your sons and daughters. I'm going to be talking with some apprenticeship and early career experts from different industries so that we can help you, help your teenagers explore the different options that are available to them. We are all parents of teenagers, so absolutely know what it is like to be trying to guide them to find their first next step after school or college. And we've got experience as well of knowing that they don't get it right first time. It is quite rare for a 16 or 17-year-old to really know what they want to do. So do expect some false starts, and that all adds to their experience and it builds their skills and self-awareness. As parents, we all want to help our children to be happy and to thrive in whatever that may be. And having greater knowledge and insight into what is available can help that to happen. So let's do some introductions and then get started with the guide to apprenticeships for parents by parents. So starting with me, my name is Catherine Marshall and I manage the apprenticeships in Lloyds Banking Group. So think beyond financial services and you'll find that we offer apprenticeships in software engineering, data analytics and HR, to name a few. And I am also the mum to 2 teenage boys. So Lucy, can I ask you to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Catherine. Hi, everyone. I'm Lucy Hunt. I'm Senior Apprenticeship Manager at NHS England. We are the strategic lead for apprenticeships across the NHS, and I am mum to a 30-year-old, so he's already been and gone, but I've got a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lucy. And Kim, can we bring you in?
Hi everybody, I'm Kim Hardman. I'm the Director of Apprenticeships for AstraZeneca and I also co-lead our UK Work Experience programmes as well. I am the mum to a 21-year-old and a 17-year-old who's about to take his A-levels.
Brilliant, thanks Kim. And Siobhan?
Hi, I'm Siobhan. I'm from the apprenticeship team at UCAS. I have 2 children. They're slightly younger, but it's always good to promote career opportunities and pathways as early as possible, I believe. So I've already started talking about it with them.
Absolutely, you can never start too early to sow the seeds of what's available. And Ian, can we hear from you?
Yes, hi everybody, my name is Ian. I look after all of our school engagement and early careers for Lloyds Banking Group. I'm dad to my 17-year-old son, or nearly 17-year-old son, so he's in year 12 at the moment. So, and you learn then that it's quite interesting being the knowledgeable expert and then trying to use that knowledge with your own children. So it's definitely not straightforward.
Fantastic. And although our children know we're the knowledgeable ones, they don't always use that knowledge, do they?
No, as I'm finding, parenthood is always a journey.
Absolutely. Right, okay, so let's get into it now. So first of all, back to basics, let's talk about what an apprenticeship is. Kim, can you describe what an apprenticeship is, please?
Yeah, absolutely, Catherine. So an apprenticeship is essentially a job with study alongside. So at AstraZeneca, our apprenticeship programs, you would come into our business for the equivalent of 4 days a week, working in a real job alongside real life people in teams with your own accountabilities, and the equivalent of 1 day a week you would be doing studying, whatever that studying is, depending on the level of apprenticeship that you would do. An apprenticeship, as well as academic study, you also have skills and behaviours that you will also learn along your apprenticeship journey. So it's not just how you get a science degree, for example, as you would in parts of AstraZeneca, but what skills and behaviours do you need to learn in order to apply yourself more effectively in your role?
Fantastic. And I think your starting point there in saying that an apprenticeship is a job, that's a really important point, because that could be the key driver of what somebody wants to do. They'll be doing that for 80% of the time, and that's what they'll be doing post the apprenticeship. So making sure that they're looking at what the jobs are and what would be of interest to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned there about the different levels, and I think it's really important that we explore the different levels of apprenticeships. Ian, can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it can be a bit confusing because when we're in school, you know about, if you're in England or Wales, Northern Ireland, and you understand about GCSEs and A levels in Scotland, you understand like hires and advanced hires, and then you go on to university. So we're all used to having this kind of thing of I do my qualifications at school and then I go off to university. And in apprenticeships, they use this kind of terminology which is called levels. So in theory, there's levels 1 through to level 7. They're tend not to find level 1 in there, so most of the time you find level 2, and they're a combination of two different things. They're a combination of both the academic side or complexity of the context of what you're going to be learning, but also the complexity of the application of that learning. And so you can have levels from 2 through to 7. Some of them are broadly equivalent to, for example, a level 6 you'd expect to have a kind of undergraduate degree in there. But I think the big thing about apprenticeship levels, another way of looking at it, is not necessarily trying to find the match back to, does this look like an A level? Is this like a degree? It's also seeing levels as being a way in which you can progress in your career. So you can, for example, with apprenticeships, come in and start at a level 3 apprenticeship, and then you can go and do a level 4, and then you can go do a level 6. So it's a different way of looking at lifelong learning, rather than necessarily maybe how it may feel at school, where your learning is aligned to kind of like pretty much your age. In apprenticeships, your learning can be for any age and at any time in your career.
Absolutely, and I think that point about progression is really important, and that's certainly something that we do in Lloyds Banking Group. So we tend to recruit, say, our data analytics apprenticeships on the level 4, and then they'll progress onto the level 6 degree apprenticeship, either specialising in data analytics or data science. So it's understanding what those progression routes are. And I think progression is important. But say, for example, if somebody has done their A levels, should they always be looking at an apprenticeship that's a higher level?
Not necessarily, in my opinion. I think it's about thinking, where do I want this to lead to? For certain professions, we still have in the UK a linkage between having a degree and then your license to be able to practice in that thing. So, for example, if you're going to do medicine or dentistry or veterinary or whatever in there, we still have some of those linkages. But actually, what I'd encourage you to do is to think, why am I involving myself in this learning? Because even though with apprenticeships, the employer is paying for the learning, you're still paying in time because you're still going to be doing the learning. And it's, where is it going to take me to? And that means then for some students, undertaking a level 6 apprenticeship might feel like it's the right answer because that is where they want to get to and it's going to be the right thing for them. But that may take 3 years for them to complete that. Conversely, in another profession, for example, in software development, you may want to take, say, a level 4 apprenticeship, and psychologically you may be thinking, well, surely that's lower because it's not a level 6. But that level 4 apprenticeship may take you to a point where your market value and the way in which employers are looking to then hire you and give you pay rises and various other things is good enough at level 4. And you already acquire that kind of marketability in a much shorter time by doing a level 4 apprenticeship in 18 months than spending 3 years doing a degree. So in one sense, it sounds complicated, but actually what it's about is really thinking, why am I doing this learning? Where is it leading to? And where does it take me to compared to where I am today? And another way of looking at that then is it just gives you a world of different opportunities, right? Because there isn't a kind of one size fits all. You can really sit there and go, actually, the style of learning, get on with it, get it done, 18 months, short burst apprenticeship thing. That's right for me right now. Every person will have a different answer. And I think that's the beauty of the apprenticeship system, is that it's less rigid and you can mold it to shape how you feel at the end of what is a fairly hard slog of school, right? You've been doing exams for years and years and years. Now is the time to take control over what learning style will work for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think just reinforcing that point around looking at the kind of job or career that you want to go into, and then understanding what levels might be available there. So if somebody did want a career in HR, as an example, the levels of apprenticeship that are available in HR are levels 3, levels 5, and level 7. So if somebody was just looking for a level 6 degree apprenticeship in HR, they wouldn't find that. So keep an open mind and look first at the type of job that you might want to do, the type of career they might want to do.
And I think also, Catherine, I think it's trust that employers know this world really, really well, right? So when they advertise an apprenticeship at a certain level, there is a reason why they're doing that, because they know a lot more about the learning than perhaps you do. So as you say, with the HR apprenticeship, the level 5 apprenticeship in HR will take you through to the CIPD qualification, which employers know is a gateway qualification for practicing independently as a HR professional. So there's a bit here of trust that employers can see a big wide world, and they're not in the business of trying to set things up unless there's a benefit to you, the learner, and them as the employer. So there's a bit of trust in some of the extra insight that they have that you don't perhaps yet have.
Really good point. Thanks, Ian. So we've talked about what an apprenticeship is, the fact that it is a job, the fact that a lot of the time you'll be doing real work alongside real people in a real work-life situation, but you'll also be spending some time really building up your skills, your knowledge and behaviours to be successful. We've talked about the different levels. So let's think now about the benefits of doing an apprenticeship. Lucy, can you come in here and highlight some of the benefits that you see for the apprentices across the NHS and other areas?
So I think for me, one of the biggest benefits is the opportunity to earn while you learn. So as Ian was saying, regardless of level, we've got roles and opportunities from level 2 up to level 7. So that is a job where you will be getting a qualification. In terms of degree apprenticeships, they're not getting into debt in terms of student finance. And also I think, the work experience, you can't put a price on that. The amount of graduates that we get applying for our lower level vacancies because they've got no work experience breaks my heart, because I know that they've left university with all that student debt and they're just desperate to get that foot in the door. But with an apprenticeship, you've already got the backing of that employer and you've already got the opportunity to put what you're learning into practice immediately. As an example of the success, our registered nurse apprenticeships, we've got a 97% achievement rate, and that is because they're getting to put the skills that they're learning into the workplace immediately, whereas composed to the traditional route, we have attrition of up to 30%, because that's by the time they go on their first placement, they might be realizing, actually, this is not the right environment for me. This is not really what I want to do. So I think, an apprenticeship gives you the opportunity to explore a sector, an employer, and make sure it's a really good fit for you as well. And the fact that you're going to get that work experience is going to make you head and shoulders above your traditional competitors.
Absolutely. That work experience is absolutely the differentiator, isn't it? And also those financial benefits that you've called out, the benefit of earning whilst you're learning, whilst you're getting your qualification, and not getting the debt by going through to university. Kim, in AstraZeneca, so you must, experience quite a lot of people who come and work for you who've thought about, actually, do I go and do a traditional science degree or do I do a research science degree apprenticeship? So what do you see with your apprentices?
So yeah, absolutely. We see, so the difference is if you come in and do a science apprenticeship, you're going into labs from day one. So you're working alongside often industry leading scientists on real life medicine projects. So it's about getting medicines to patients. So they'll be working in the labs on that. So they're getting that laboratory experience. Whereas I think the difference at university is you will go into labs, but not as often. You're not in there from day one. You're not working on real life medicine projects. And so I think this going into any scientific organisation, going into like with Lucy's roles as well, with NHS England, it's going in and getting that real life experience, working like Lucy, alongside real patients, actually in the moment with us. It's real life scientists in the moment. And we don't just have science opportunities, the breadth, like you explained at the beginning, Catherine, there's everything from kind of supply chain and engineering and manufacturing and lots of different data roles. There's lots of different opportunities, but all of them offer you that opportunity to go into the business and work with people who are working on getting medicines developed and getting them out to the patients. So it gives them that real life experience. It gives them that opportunity to really adapt their skills and their behaviors as well. So by the time they come out at the end, they've got let's keep with the science example, they've got the same science degree that you would get from going to university, but they're a graduate with 4 years work experience. So instantly, with what you and Lucy were just saying about the work experience, you've instantly got that. Rather than just being a graduate and then potentially, depending on the university you've been to, then going to have to try and get some laboratory skills, you've got that in abundance because you've worked, for the 4 years. And we do have some areas of our science where they will give them projects, like new areas of science to develop, because they're other scientists, more experienced scientists, are working on maybe the tier stage 1 projects, for example. They may give them other areas and new areas of science that need to be developed. So by the time they finish, they're often SMEs in that area, which is fantastic experience for them, to really own something and develop it through.
Brilliant. I think what's going through my mind while you're talking there is really making an impact from day one and seeing the impact that you're making. I think that's really important, isn't it? The value that you're adding, that sort of sense of purpose.
Definitely. But I would say, it is, I think it was Lucy that referenced it, about its ways of working as well. A lot of the apprentices that apply to us are also applying to university as well. We get that, absolutely. And this is about choice. So I think it's about making informed choices, about ways of learning. Not everybody learns in the same way. And I think the important thing is there's no right or wrong with this. So we're not sat here as an employer going, I'm sorry you've not been through university with your degree, so we won't take you. Or I'm sorry you've not been through an apprenticeship. It's kind of, we get that people will, do it their own way, but they've got to research it. And I think you said at the beginning, Catherine, about, people not always taking their first choice and it not always working out. We got so many people applying to us who've gone to university, realised it's not for them, have dropped out, and then they're trying the apprenticeship route. So I think it's that supporting your son or daughter to do their research, making sure that they are as informed as they can be. So if they apply for an apprenticeship or they apply for university and they go through the assessment process for both, at least at the end they can go, right, actually I'm going to make this choice because for me, I've researched it all. I now know which is the best route for me. And an employer's not sat there making a judgment on the way they've gone to get that qualification. It doesn't matter to them as long as they've got it and the work experience, then that's great for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. It's finding the right pathway, isn't it, for your sons and
Absolutely.
daughters, and understanding and helping them to understand the way that they learn. And you touched on this a bit, Kim. What we quite often have our apprentices talk about is the fact that they're quite practical learners. They
Yes.
they want to learn something and they want to put it into practice,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that really helps embed that learning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you are somebody who learns that way, then an apprenticeship is a no-brainer. I think for some people, they're just not, and I was never like this either. You know, being sat in a classroom environment and being talked at is not, I don't respond well to that. So, but if you do, and you know, go to university and you know, you've got elements of that university, but go and do that. But I think you should. I think there's so many opportunities now to get different levels of qualification and different experience. And what Ian said earlier is trust the employer. So, you know, we have people, you know, at careers fairs, I only want a degree apprenticeship. And like you said before about HR, you know, you can eliminate whole careers by just focusing on that degree bit. Trust the employer, trust that what they're advertising for is are the skills that are needed in industry. You know, we do know what we're doing. And so, you know, trust that. And, you know, nobody, if you go in on a level 3 apprenticeship, you're not going to retire on a level 3 apprenticeship. You know, you've got a whole career between, you know, between that time period. So trust that you will get the development opportunities and if you want them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And being open to where your career might take you. So we have some people joining us, say, on a level 3 financial services apprenticeship program, and then they change into something completely different, level 4 software engineering. So that first step that they're taking doesn't mean that that's what they're going to be doing for the rest of their life. So Siobhan, can you share some details of how UCAS is supporting the exploration of both university and apprenticeship routes?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, it's worth pointing out that there are over 600 different types of apprenticeships, and for a young person, that can seem quite daunting when they see the range of opportunities out there. And we were finding year on year that the people that were registering on ucas.com, more and more were telling us they had an interest in apprenticeships, but we were finding that young people in particular were finding it hard to find the information that they wanted. So, because a lot of young people, especially in sixth form, will be comparing full-time university with apprenticeships, we thought we can just make it a lot easier for them by talking about both on the same platform. So UCAS has changed quite dramatically. So we're supporting people at different points in their kind of career pathway discovery during their school journey. You don't have to wait until you're in sixth form to register on UCAS. You can register before then. And actually I would recommend that because we've got items that go right to the basics of discovering and exploring your career opportunities. So things like we have a careers quiz where somebody can answer a few questions and get specific role recommendations to them. We've also got things like industry guides. So if somebody's interested in digital, they might not understand how that works in the UK, or they might not understand the job roles that are available in digital. So they can look on there, start exploring different job roles, and look at things like salary or the kind of skills needed for those sectors. Then if you have people who decide actually, yes, I know I'm interested in apprenticeships, we have various different platforms that can support them. Some people assume that our exhibitions, they're called discovery exhibitions, are just about university. They are definitely not. We now have employers at our exhibitions, so you can talk one-to-one with an employer, or you can go to a university and speak about their higher education offerings. And parents and carers can go to discovery events as well. It's not just for young people. We also have a CV builder where somebody can actually generate a CV, and some apprenticeships might ask for a CV as part of their application process. So on UCAS, they can generate a CV, we will guide them through that, and they can download it and they can send it on to opportunities. We also have sector-specific application guides for engineering, business, finance, law, and digital at the moment. We've got another 3 coming out during National Apprenticeship Week, but this is where we've gone to subject matter experts and we've asked them what makes a good application, what are the questions they're like to get in an interview, what are the assessments they're likely to go through, what are the skills that will be looked for, and what can they read, watch, or listen to that could add value to their application. So we're finding those really popular at the moment. But then when you actually want to look at specific opportunities, we have our vacancy board that has all the vacancies from the government's Find Apprenticeship Service, plus a few more that are coming directly to us. So a really wide range. And then we also have employer profiles where we've got employers who have a full page dedicated to them talking about all their early career opportunities, whether that's graduate roles, internship roles, apprenticeship roles. And we are actually promoting apprenticeships at all levels, not just HE. So we are talking about level 2 all the way up to level 7. I just want to pick up on a couple of my favorites for the advice and guidance because there's a couple of areas that I think are quite hard to find advice on. And one of them is on the aspect of relocation for an apprenticeship. So we've just released a page on ucas.com that talks about this in a bit more detail. If you don't have a range of opportunities available on your doorstep, a young person may well be thinking, can they relocate for an apprenticeship? But also on neurodiversity in apprenticeships, because sometimes I think it's very easy to find that support. Find information on the support available within university or college if they went for full time, sometimes a bit harder to find it on what it would be like in an apprenticeship. So that talks about funding support, the support you can expect from an employer, or the support you can expect to get from a provider or the university or college that might be supporting that apprenticeship. And then from a parent and carer specific point of view, we also have our parent and carer guides where you can look at both university and apprenticeship opportunities. And also we have a newsletter that parents and carers can sign up to as well to find lots of important information and guidance to support them.
Fantastic. Wow, you've covered so much there. Probably just a couple of things for me to pick up on. I think that relocation guide is really valuable and really important. As an example, my 19-year-old son, who's just successfully applied for an apprenticeship, has chosen to do that in a different area because he was thinking if he went to university, he'd get that life experience of moving out of home, etc. And so having that relocation guide, I think, is really helpful. And I think the other point I probably just want to pull out as well is absolutely, it's never too early to start looking at this. Don't wait until sixth form. And remember, apprenticeships are available for 16-year-olds as well. So you talked about those level 2, level 3 apprenticeship programs. So for some people, they might have had enough of that academic work and after their GCSEs are not thinking that they want to go into A levels and they want to get straight into the work area and think about an apprenticeship. So apprenticeships are available from the age of 16 as well.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thanks, Siobhan. And what do you tend to see the drivers for the different routes that people decide to take?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So we released 2 reports probably last year and a half called Project Next Generation, and that's where we use data from a whole range of 13 to 17-year-olds, and we were looking at the driving factors for career choices, subject choices, pathway choices, and actually like the main pros that were seen for going for an apprenticeship were being paid to work, so earning a wage. We also had learning new skills and gaining more hands-on practical learning. And I think those 3 are actually some of the biggest benefits of going to apprenticeships. Like they really do give that extra layer of applying your knowledge and your learning to the workplace. And I think some people just learn better or have different learning styles that suit that kind of hands-on learning. And absolutely about being paid and earning a wage, like you know, it is an amazing opportunity to be studying and getting that income in at the same time and learning those professional employability skills. And maybe they might not have them at the start, but the employer and the provider can help them develop these as soon as they go into that apprenticeship, and people will know what their previous experience was and know kind of what needs to be worked on, and that support is there. So yeah, so they're the main drivers we get for people taking apprenticeships.
Fantastic. Thanks, Siobhan. So it's brilliant to hear what UCAS are doing to help students find apprenticeships. Ian, when you're out and about at various different school events and careers fairs, are there any other key sites that you tend to recommend when people are looking for different apprenticeships?
Well, I feel like I'm going to disappoint Siobhan now because,
No.
but definitely, you know, there are. Siobhan is exactly, you know, big endorsement here because Siobhan is exactly right, because I think, you know, most of us in living memory have grown up with UCAS associated with our journey to university. And so historically, people have tended to think of UCAS as being a journey that you start dabbling with when you're in year 12. And that's a big there's a big miss of all of the kind of vast range of resources that that exist on UCAS sites. I think different organizations try to explain this in different ways. So Amazing Apprenticeships, for example, does, I think, a quite an admirable job of starting with what you know. So quite often you probably have an inkling at about 15, 16 of subjects that you like. You may not necessarily know where you're going to take those subjects. So Amazing Apprenticeships does, I think, a pretty decent job of kind of like saying, well, look, if your leaning is in this way, then look, there's a whole raft of different opportunities that you can take in there. So I quite like that one. Obviously, I would also give a bit of a plug for what we do in Lloyds Banking Group through our Imagine What's Next platform, because we do a similar thing to kind of just show the range of different opportunities that exist, you know, within a major employer. And I'm sure that Kim and Lucy will agree here that, you know, one of the big things that we have to get over when you're looking for an apprenticeship is what a company does for its customers is only a tiny inkling as to the range of different opportunities and careers that exist within that make that up. Whether that is Lloyds Banking Group, where we deliver financial services, but the range of skills that we need to be able to do that are very often in the tech and data space. Similarly, Lucy, of course, employs lots of doctors and nurses, but that's touching the very surface of all of the different careers available in the NHS as well. So I think, as well as just remembering that what an organization does for its endpoint customers is just a tiny glimpse in there, and we need to kind of move a little bit away from that. Everybody who works for Lloyds is working in counting money. Everybody who works for the NHS is in nursing. It's a part of what we do, and in that way, that just shows you again the flexibility of apprenticeships to show so many different career pathways that you can take up.
Absolutely, and Kim touched on that earlier as well. You know, AstraZeneca is obviously about you know, the science, but it's also about the logistics. It's also about the data. So in every organisation, you have a whole range of different careers. So we've talked about where do you find the apprenticeships, how do you search for them, how do you find out different career options, how do you find out what you might be interested in. It'd be really good to explore, now you've found them, how do you apply for them, and what might be some of the top tips that we have for applying for apprenticeships. Lucy, can I come to you first of all?
Yeah, so my top tips would be to tailor your application. As much as there's the perception that we are one NHS, we have very large individual NHS trusts, but then we've also got our SMEs in terms of pharmacy, dental, GP practices. So actually do some research. Every organisation will have their website, which will list their values, talk about what you can bring to that organisation. And if you haven't got lots of work experience, that's fine. If you come with the right attitude, the whole point of the apprenticeship is we will give you the skills and experience. So be able to list your transferable skills. If you are a young person that's had caring responsibilities, talk about that. If you've been the captain of the football or the netball team, talk about your leadership skills. So I think it's just the opportunity is to sell yourself and make you stand out, because there will be competition and you want to make sure that you are noticed.
Brilliant. And definitely top tip there, do your research. There's a website for every organisation, and on that website, there's so much information, isn't there? All the values, the purpose of the organisation. So if you find out about that, first of all, you're checking you're a good fit for that organisation. And secondly, you can pull out those points in your application.
Definitely. And just going back to Ian's point, we have got 350 different careers in the NHS. And I think a lot of young people and parents wouldn't know that. We've got our huge corporate back office functions that support us in giving patient care, as well as the clinical front facing roles. So, yeah, I'm sure whatever you're interested in, there will be a role for you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Kim, can we come to you in terms of your top tips for when you're starting to apply for apprenticeships?
Gosh, yes. So I think I totally agree with everything that Lucy said. I think that whole tailoring, sometimes we see CVs come through and they've literally, I think candidates have done a blanket application. I think, yes, again, research the company that you are looking into, but also research the apprenticeship. So research the type of thing you want to do and then see which companies are doing it, and then look at those companies rather than, so I think a lot of people who want to go into digital, for example, will look at Microsoft and Google and Apple, look at those, NHS, Lloyds Banking Group, AstraZeneca, lots of other organisations will have those experiences. So do your research, I think. I think another thing is look on LinkedIn as well. There's a lot of young people now are setting up LinkedIn profiles. Set yourself up a LinkedIn profile, do some research, find people in jobs that you want to do, and message them, find out how they got into their job. You may find that they got into it through apprenticeships. We've got a lot of senior people in our business who started out life as an apprentice. It wasn't called the apprentice that it is now. It would have been called a different variant, but essentially that's what it was. And so we get lots of support within our business from senior leads who have started out. So I think it's doing your research and looking at how looking at the different assessment processes that different organisations do as well, looking at that, speaking to people who've been through it, kind of try and demystify some of the terminology. So there's something a lot of businesses do, capabilities interview. Well, what does that mean? And actually, it's an example of give me an example of when you were in this situation. That's it, simply in a nutshell. But the moment you start saying we're going to do capabilities, it's scary. So try and do the research into that as well.
Fantastic. And what you will find as well is a lot of organisations will help you through the assessment process. So they'll have practice hubs and things like that, where they'll provide the definitions of what's a capability interview, etc. So definitely take the time to find out what's available. And Siobhan, what would be your top tip for applying for apprenticeships?
So mine's probably about timing. So we found in some of our research that some people kind of give up on the apprenticeship search because they can't necessarily find opportunities in their region. And it's a shame, because if that is a route that would really suit them, that they should be able to explore that. And I think like one of the key things to remember is that just like any other job, they do not all open and close at the same time like a university application would. They will all open and close on different dates. And so there are very much peak times during a year when apprenticeship opportunities come up. For instance, a lot of companies will have their vacancies open during National Apprenticeship Week. There will be a lot of vacancies. But if you looked in June, for example, in comparison to that, there is probably going to be a lot less vacancies open, especially at degree level, than if you'd have searched earlier on in the year. So I would say like you need to keep searching on the vacancy boards for opportunities, but also employer profiles are an amazing way to actually make sure that you don't miss the perfect company, because employer profiles are going to be open all the time, whereas a vacancy board is only going to show you a snapshot of a time. So to make that wish list of all those companies that you want to keep an eye out for is such good preparation if they know early on. And just also to say that don't forget with that timing, you can apply for full-time university alongside applying for degree apprenticeships, they do not count as one of your 5 options. So, like, if you want a plan A and a plan B, you can make both applications and just withdraw from whichever one you decide not to go into close to the time when you will be making that move. So yeah, timing timing is everything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that references what Kim was talking about earlier, and keeping your options open and having that time to really explore what you want to do. So we've talked about what an apprenticeship is, the different levels. We've talked about the benefits of apprenticeships. We've talked about how to find them, how to apply for them. I think what I'd like to close on is just thinking about how do we best talk to our teenagers about it. So Kim, if I come to you first of all, you said at the start that you've got 2 sons. So one who's got his A-levels this summer, and one who's already at university. So
Yeah.
what would be your advice to parents helping their sons and daughters navigating through deciding what their post-school or college options are?
Oh gosh. So yes, I do have 2 sons, one of which is at university. And the first I knew that he was going to university was when he was accepted and announced to me. So he didn't talk to me about it because what do I know about early careers? So, but to be fair, it's the right choice for him. He's having a great experience. He's owning it. But I think and I've got another son who really doesn't know what he wants to do other than he doesn't want to go to university. He'd like to do an apprenticeship, but he doesn't know in what. So I'm trying to take the pressure off him. So we've sat down and had a chat about it. He's going to take a year out. He's going to go and get a job. He's going to save up and hopefully go and do a bit of traveling while he tries to. I think he just needs to go through. He's one of the youngest in his year. And I think this whole pressure of, you're doing your A-levels, you've got to do your personal statement, you've got to do work experience, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. It's all coming from school, I think is just too much. And so for me, I'm trying to help him take all that pressure away. So I've said to him, you don't do a personal statement, rightly or wrongly. I've said, don't do it. You're not going to university. A personal statement is about, I want to study X at university. He's literally got no clue. And interestingly, I get to know your own child because I'm really not worried about him. In all this, I think this is the right path for him. He needs a breather. He needs that being able to focus on his studies, which he's literally totally done with. He's done with school. He's not enjoying it anymore. He would quite happily leave tomorrow. And so what I'm trying to do is support him without being, oh my God, why are you not revising 24 hours a day? I'm trying to take the pressure off, but keep the pressure on a bit to keep him focused. I'm trying to help him with exam revision timetables, trying to keep him a bit structured so I can keep him on track because, excuse me, not having something to focus on can equally be not the right thing because it doesn't give. My concern is he's not anything to strive for at the moment, which can equally be distracting and not giving them a focus. So it's really difficult. And I do think it is. Think about your child and think about how they learn. Think about what support they need. How can you support them in what is a really stressful time? And if you've got a child who is, highly academic, can literally lock themselves in a room, is very focused, can revise, can sashay into an exam and come out with an A star, fabulous. But there are going to be millions of people out there who don't have that. Neither of my children were like that. I wasn't like that. So, it's kind of how can you support without being another pressure, because they will already be coming under pressure from school to focus on this time. How can you support them and how can you help them research different things so that they don't just accept, the thing that's coming in front of them. They accept the first thing that comes their way, that whether it's the right decision or not. There can be millions of children that will go off to university and it's just not the right thing for them. And there'll be loads of them that will drop out, will come back home with mum and dad going literally like, well, that's the end of their career. It's not. It wasn't the right decision for them. And so I'm trying to support my son. I'm not sure, if I'm being really frank, I'm not sure I'm doing a very good job of it, but I'm just trying to keep talking to him and, trying to support him and trying to reduce the panic of how much he's got going on and what to focus on, which is right for him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A lot of what you have said has absolutely resonated there. I think it is know your child, absolutely. There is no set timeline. Everything builds up to that self-awareness and that experience and adds to, the flavour of life. And I don't think any parent feels like they're doing 100% top job. Lucy, is there anything that you can add that would help in the conversations that you've
So
had?
I agree with everything that Kim said, and I think that parents and teachers need to move away from traditional degree route is the only route. I think, as you say, Kim, you need to understand what's best for the child. What is it they enjoy? What role do they want to do? Is a degree even required? There's lots of really successful, rewarding careers that you don't need a degree for. Unfortunately, the damage was done with my 17-year-old. She was indoctrinated into the cult of traditional, and wouldn't be swayed even by me and what I do. But the 15-year-old is, so I could get a degree and it would be paid for and I would have no student debt and I'd have a job. And even she's still a bit cynical. So I think that is a big part of the problems, that parents and teachers only know what they know, and apprenticeships have evolved so much over the past few years. And I think it's really important that they educate themselves so that they can support their children in giving them correct careers advice and guidance.
Absolutely. And it is that planting the seed early, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Finally, Ian, if I can come to you. So you spend a lot of time going out to different schools, careers fairs. What would be your piece of advice?
I mean, I feel like a little bit behind the curve compared to you guys because, mine is going to go into final year 13 next year. So I've been listening really carefully to all of your experience in there. And, as a parent, it's really hard, isn't it? Because this feels like the one big last act that you've got to nail as a parent, even though you don't have any experience of it. It's super hard in there. I think just another perspective, because it's just adding on top of everything, all the great things have been said, is, way back when I went to university, I think it was 9% of adults were in university. So we were like super rare. And that was the way that society was. And thankfully, society's moved on and it isn't that way any longer. But equally, when you think back to those times, when we left education, we were going into a career that we were largely going to either, if not have a job for life, but we were going to have a career that was relatively stable for what we thought would be a decade and more ahead. Whereas now for students coming out of school, we think in the research that their lives will have maybe 10, 12 different career arcs. Some of it may be in direct employment, some of it may be in self-employment, some of it may be in a mash of all of those things together. So there's part of me here that thinks, just building on the excellent points that Kim and Lucy made there about, knowing your child in there, is also relaxing back into nothing is forever. Whatever choice that you think you're going to make, it's only going to be valid for a few years. So there's some part of me here that says, do what you think will actually make you the happiest in that choice, because you will do your best work when it comes from a place that's inside you rather than coming from a place where you're just told by somebody else this is the way to do things. Nothing is forever. And the answer that you come up with today will be a different answer in 3 years' time. Often what I'll say to students when I meet them in the various schoolwork that we do is, if you're 17 now, do you feel like you were the same person as you were when you were 14? And of course they'll say no, because they're much taller and they're much bigger, and they go, I'm definitely not. So what makes you think that by the time you're 21, you're still going to be the same person as you are now in there? Nothing is forever. We will keep changing and evolving. And part of the art of careers now is about just recognizing and keeping in touch with that outside world and keeping in touch with yourself, and then finding those bits where they just gel together.
Fantastic. I think those are very wise words for us to end this video podcast on. So hopefully, throughout the journey we've taken you on about apprenticeships, you've got a much better understanding about what they are, what the benefits are, and importantly, how to make the decision about what is the right first step, because as Ian's just said, it's not forever. What is the right first step for your sons and daughters as they're deciding to leave their school or college? I just want to wish you all the very best, along with your teenagers as they're navigating through their first careers. And please do take advantage of the different resources that have been mentioned on this podcast. So thank you all ever so much. Firstly, to Lucy, to Kim, to Siobhan and Ian for taking part. And thank you to everybody for listening.